Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TaskHuman Talks. I'm your host and fellow wellness provider, Jamie Carroll. And today I have got the such lovely person, Matthew Stotts. Thank you, Matthew, for joining me. Matthew.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew's a strength coach, a weight management coach, and a behavioral change coach. I think I got all of those. And actually, do you go by Matthew or Matt?
I prefer Matthew, yes.
Matthew, perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, Matthew. So let's dive right in. How are you helping people on the TaskHuman app?
Yeah, so my areas of expertise are a lot focused around behavioral change and taking those steps to build sustainable habits that take our fitness journey from a constantly restarting cycle to just a lifestyle that we can maintain.
I love that. Okay, let's actually dive right into that. So that does happen, right? Where we want to start a fitness program and then we kind of fall off and then we get back to it. And then we're like, okay, going back to it again. What is behind that?
Quite honestly, it's taking on more than you're ready to take on. I feel like, no, I don't even feel like, I just know that people get so excited. And unfortunately, in our current society, we've put so much pressure on what fitness should look like and how hard it should be. And everyone, I didn't sweat enough, so it wasn't a good workout, or I'm not sore the next day. But then you get people who are wanting to take that step and do it, and they haven't had a gym workout in 3 years. They haven't even had more than 8 ounces of water in the last 3 days. And then they think they're going to go to the gym 7 days a week and eat kale every day for every meal. And it's too much. One of my jobs is every year I actually get to look at the gym statistics of membership and training signups, and then what that looked 2 months later. We have this substantial spike where January 1st comes and we go from here to here, but then February 20th, we're down here. And it's because people, they take on too much. They don't understand that baby steps.
Yeah. And celebrating the baby steps too, I think can go a long way. And that's something we don't do. It's like, maybe you start 1 day a week in the gym for 30 minutes. And that's something that can be celebrated. But you're right. We jump the gun and we want to go all in, and it's okay, wait a minute. Let's celebrate the small steps too. And I think as coaches, we can really help our clients celebrate those things. And that can be so powerful.
Yeah, I think that we don't take enough opportunity to celebrate the low-hanging fruit. We think because it's not a PR every time, it's not a world record, it's not a land speed sprint break, that it's not worth celebrating. But no, did you get your ass out of bed 3 days this week and get up and do some kind of movement? Let's celebrate that, because it's more than what you did before.
Okay, let's give an example. What's a low-hanging fruit that you're celebrating today?
Oh, so I actually, through the dude bro way of life, actually injured myself a couple months ago and have been rehabbing and have not been consistent myself. We all have our cycles and our things. I'm an autistic man who suffers from clinical depression. Sometimes I don't want to just work out. So my low-hanging fruit is that I have worked out every Monday through Friday for the last 2 weeks. This is week number 2. Week number 3 of hitting a consistent back to it.
Congratulations. I love it. So if you're listening to this, I want you to think about a low-hanging fruit that you can celebrate for yourself as well. I love just kind of starting this way. Now, Matthew, you've got quite an amazing journey that I want you to share through your own fitness, right? And so why don't we start there too?
Yeah. So we'll start the age of 17. I walked into my doctor's appointment for my yearly physical, weighed in at 515 pounds.
That's great.
And my doctor gave me 2 life choices: either fix it or be dead before your 20th birthday. So,
wow. I mean, I cannot even imagine you at 515 pounds right now.
Got the pictures for it. I look completely different. It's a whole different face.
So what was that experience like for you? And what happened after you left that appointment?
It was terrifying. We're talking, let's see, it's, oh my God. Am I old enough now to say it was almost 20 years ago? I'm old enough now to say it was almost 20 years ago. It was terrifying. Like doctors, even today, they're not meant and they're not trained to help with these types of things. They're meant to diagnose and treat and provide preventative care. But once you're already in that situation, they're not trained to do that. So he sent me on my way with no resources. I'm 17 years old. My doctor just told me I'm going to be dead in less than 2 years. Like, oh my, that's a lot. Yeah.
Right.
So I walked out of there absolutely terrified, went home, and it's always funny because everyone's like, how long did it take you to lose all that weight? Okay. I was 17. I went home and I Googled fast weight loss. Google was
Okay.
not a quality search engine 17 years ago. And I basically did everything the internet said in excess, like food, exercise, all of it. I did it to the point of literally putting myself in a situation where I've been hospitalized twice for anorexia, twice for bulimia.
Wow.
All I knew is that the internet and my doctor said I needed to be skinny. They told me that my
Yeah,
BMI said I was morbidly obese. By the way, anyone listening to this, BMI is total bullshit. It's
it
only
is.
height versus weight. That is it. It does not take into anything except height versus weight. I am
No,
6'5"
yeah.
and
Whoa, you're
230.
6'5" too?
Oh yeah, I'm a giant man. I'm a giant man. My
Wow.
BMI says at my age and at 6'5", I should be 190 pounds. I'm currently 235. Like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm going to
right?
second that. The BMI, it should just be thrown out the window. There is no way that anybody should listen to that.
One of the gentlemen that I regularly work with, he is 5'4". He is also 230 pounds, and he's a champion
I
bodybuilder.
was
Like
just going to
he's
say,
just straight abs and
yeah.
biceps for days. BMI says he's morbidly obese, and he's the fittest man I know, for God's sake.
Right. I was going to say, if you're lifting weights and you're a bodybuilder or something like that, it's just a weird number. Don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, so that's where it all started. And over the course of 7, 8 years, it was this cycle of I'd lose 90 pounds and then gain 100 pounds. And I'd lose 50 pounds and then gain 60 pounds. And it was
Wow.
literally just this up and down yo-yo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I figured out how to abuse things properly to get it off and keep it off,
Okay.
which was a whole cycle of just such unhealthy things, like eating way less than I should have been. There was a whole period where I didn't eat anything unless I had taken 5 or 6 laxatives beforehand.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not good. I want to say in 2014, I went through a whole transition, had an ugly divorce. It was like a whole thing. Wound up working for a big corporate company. Loved the job. It was super great.
Okay.
But one of my coworkers walked in one day, literally came up behind me. She's 5'4", the Southeast Asian lady, like sassy as can be, grabbed me by my shirt, pulled me into her office, put me in front of a mirror and said, "You were killing yourself at 5'15". You're killing yourself at 179 pounds, because that's what I managed to starve myself down to, was 179 pounds.
Wow.
Literally just a walking skeleton. Was not great.
Oh my gosh. And so how have you rebuilt to where you are now? Like, how has your relationship to exercise, your relationship to food, how has all that shifted and changed?
Yeah, it's that in and of itself has been a journey. Again, keeping in mind that for the longest time, we've always, even now, like most people have this idea that fitness has to look like a certain thing in order for it to count towards your exercise goal. That food has to look like a certain thing in order to count towards your nutrition goals. So there was a lot of that in the beginning. It's been this up and down process, and growing as a coach. What got me into being a trainer was I was working for a big telecommunications company, had that run in with my friend Heather, and she started taking me to the gym. So my first run-ins with a gym was while I was married to a champion powerlifter.
Okay.
And he made the gym the most miserable place ever. Why aren't you going faster? Why can't you go heavier? Why are you so slow? Like just this place of just not good things. So she started taking me to the gym and taught me how to love it. And weeks later, it went from her doing all of our programming and workouts to I was now learning how to program and work out and do all this stuff. Yeah. And friends and family had started to see my change and my consistency and my dedication to it. So people started asking me to train them. So that the evolution of that piece of it. But in my getting my license to be a personal trainer and taking my yearly CECs, at this point in my career, I have to take about 120 continuing education credits every year to maintain my certification. And now I just learned about the mind and how all those things work, because that's what I found is it's all about mindset and it's all about approach and how you look at it. If you spend so much time saying, I have to do this and I need to do this versus I want to do this, it's a whole different ballgame of a whole different.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the big shift there, was like swapping that mentality from I have to do this to learning how to say, no, you know what? It's Friday. I'm tired. I've worked 60 hours this week, 70 hours this week. I don't want to work out today. So I'm not going to.
You know, I think that's such a culture conditioned thing now that We feel like we need to do these things. There's something incomplete about us. We're wrong or we're broken in some way. And so we need to go and fix ourselves, and that we need to go and do that at the gym, or we need to go and do that with a new healthy diet. So we need all these things outside of ourselves. And it's really about coming back and understanding that we're whole and complete already. And I'm tired. I'm going to sleep instead of going to the gym.
100%. There were 2 books that I got to read in the course of me becoming a trainer. So I'm originally from the East Coast. There was a whole big thing with my job. My boss was like, you're not happy anymore. Let's get you doing something that you want to do. So he helped me get online and Indeed and resumes and all that stuff. And I had a bunch of job offers, and Anytime Fitness actually moved me out to Minnesota to be one of their trainers. In the course of doing that, I read 2 books. The first one's called No Sweat, and the second one's called Cybernetics.
Okay.
Highly recommend both of them. The Cybernetics is literally all about the psychology of self-esteem and how we as humans, we're just computers. We're just biomechanical computers. And we spend so much time telling ourselves we can't do this, or, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or that's too hard. But they basically, the whole synopsis of their experiments and their study was they took people and got them to sit down for 4 or 5 hours a week and just tell themselves, I can do this. I can do this. They took people who had never played a golf game in their life, or my favorite one is they had a champion powerlifter who couldn't get his deadlifts past 500 pounds. And they took him, and for 8 weeks, they worked on this, just sitting down, mentally visualizing themselves doing these things. And they took people who had never played golf in their life, and they played at Tiger Woods level. They took this guy who couldn't pull above 500 pounds and without even warming up, pulled 650 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Just because he visualized and spent time doing that.
Okay. This is what I was going to ask you this actually. How can we get out of those patterns that are not serving us anymore? Like visualizing, and is that something you would recommend for someone?
Oh, 100%. The big thing is, this leads into the second book, the No Sweat one, is a big piece of getting yourself out of these cycles and being able to succeed and be as successful as you want is, one, not only to visualize yourself doing it and stop telling yourself you can't do it. Have you ever tried? You can't tell yourself you can't do something if you've never tried to do it. So maybe you say, hey, I've never done this, but I want to try it. Might I be bad at it? Sure, but I'm still going to try. That's what we're here for. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
The other piece to it is realizing that what's fitness for me is not fitness for you. What's fitness for you is not fitness for Karen. What's fitness for Karen isn't the same thing for Tom.
Right.
And understanding that all movement counts. You don't have to be drenched in sweat every time you work out in order for it to be a productive workout. All movement counts. Anything, whether it's 3 minutes or 3 hours, and it's outside of your normal daily routine, it counts.
It does.
Yes. Stop telling yourself it has to be 7 hours every day, Monday through Friday, and these crazy workouts on the weekends.
Exactly.
You haven't worked out in 6 months. Start with 1 day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I have more success getting people to just shift that mindset off of I have to do this versus, hey, I want to do this, first off. And 2, it's not an all or nothing. It can be a progressive buildup. One of my licenses is a behavioral change specialist. And the first thing that you learn in this certification is it's called anchoring. And it's taking one behavior that you already have and adding a small piece to it. So it's like you brush your teeth every night. You want to get better at taking your vitamins. Put your vitamins by your toothbrush.
Right. Yeah.
Start there. Yeah. Or a lot of people struggle with drinking water. You want to drink a little bit more water every day. Put a glass by your toothbrush in the bathroom. You're in the bathroom every day. Find those little pieces that are easy to build off of and go from there.
And you have to start where you are, right? So often we compare ourselves, right? Like if I were to compare myself to you, I would be going to the gym, probably doing something I don't even want to do right now because I'm in a healing space right now. Personally, I've been dealing with some health stuff, and I cut out my hard kettlebell workouts. I'm doing a lot of just movement, breathing, being present, and it's phenomenal for me, right? So if I were to compare myself to you, I'm going to be like, I'm not doing enough. I'm lost. Right? Or if you were comparing yourself to me, you would be like, wait a minute, just start where you are. Start incorporating those little baby steps, those celebrations along the way as well, and see what changes for you. It's so simple. It does not have to be hard.
It does not have to be hard. And most successful fitness isn't hard. Like
No.
the workouts, and this is, it kills me all the time because one of my favorite pieces about my job is I get to bring together a whole group of younger, slightly less experienced trainers. I get to help them level up a little bit. We work on form corrections, modifications, and mindset, and just all kinds of great learning opportunities to help them be better coaches.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I tell them all the time is you don't have to destroy them on their first workout. Don't do that to them. They've never done this before. And if you make them so sore that they're never going to want to come back, you've just lost a client. It's the same thing for people starting their own journey. Don't make your first workout a friggin' CrossFit workout. First off, CrossFit is only meant for people who are actually athletes and have the form and mind-body connection to actually control all those big power movements. So if you can't walk 1,000 steps in the course of a day, maybe don't start with.
You don't need the CrossFit.
That.
Yeah.
You don't need the CrossFit. I can't even tell you how many people I've had so much success with. We don't even talk workouts. We've only baseline touched on nutrition, but let's get you walking 10,000 steps 4 days a week. That's
Absolutely. Yeah.
And hey, guess what? It's not an all or nothing. If you missed your step goal by 100 steps yesterday, make it up today. If you went over that goal and you're feeling a little extra tired, well, you can let the day before carry you into this day. It's not an all or nothing. It's not a one and done. You have a whole week to hit your goals.
I'm glad you touched on this because something I like to tell people too, if we miss a day of something, right? So what?
So what?
Maybe you don't have to make it up. Maybe you don't even have to make it up. Maybe the next day is a new day. You know what I mean? Because that can really throw people. They're like, oh, I was eating healthy. And then today I had Chinese food. Now the rest of the week, who cares? I always say, like, who cares? Just start. Every day is a new day for all of us. We're starting over again each and every day. So if you miss a day of a workout because you were tired, or maybe you needed to sleep instead, maybe you needed to work instead, maybe you needed to call your friend instead who is having a hard day. Everything is so important. So you don't need to make it up. That's a tough one for people to get.
It is. And again, it comes down to a lot of that old school science and that old philosophy around fitness and what wellness looks like. And it's this cookie cutter, one size fits all, everything works for everybody. No, not everything works for everybody because we're all different. We have different schedules. We have different routines. I am an incredibly routined, anxious OCD autistic man who's dating somebody who I know every time I tell them, like, hey, we need to be there by 2, we're probably going to be 2 hours late because he doesn't plan accordingly. Like, it's fine. This stuff happens. Like, it can't be a make or break for you.
Right. Exactly. Giving yourself some flow within the structure. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And hey, you know what? 15 minutes. If that's all you got in, that's enough. That's it.
Yes.
Give yourself grace and credit for that. I think it's the thing that we don't do enough of. We do not give ourselves enough grace in the course of our days. No. Let's be real. The last, we're going on 3 years now, have been absolute hell for everybody between elections and pandemics and wars and now recessions in the housing market. Every day is just stress and chaos. So why add to it by beating yourself up because you didn't get enough steps in?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So for you and your journey, when you went to that doctor, they didn't give you enough guidance at that moment. So you were figuring it out for yourself. If there were someone else in that same position now, who goes to the doctor, gets a checkup, and they have to lose a lot of weight or they have to make a big lifestyle change, what would you say to them as they're starting out now on their journey?
A lot of that would depend on what was the first thing that came out of their mouth when they met me. Oftentimes people, they beat themselves up for that. That's the first thing I want to do. Shut that down. No, here's the deal. I don't care who you are, where you're at. One, don't compare yourself to your past because you're never going to be there again. Okay. That's then, not now. 2, start small. Understand that you have a journey and you need to trust the process. I did not get to 515 pounds overnight. I did not just wake up one morning, was like, boom, explosion, fat kid. No, it was a whole 17 years of bad habits and poor choices and a lot of trauma that just manifested in this way. And it's like, okay, take your time, give yourself grace and patience. You're gonna trip and fall. It's gonna happen, but that doesn't mean that it's going to ruin it all. one day of bad food doesn't void out the entire week. Like,
Not at
come
all.
on. And
Yeah.
two, don't tell yourself you can't do things, because what was the first thing you did when your mom told you not to do something?
Yeah, you did it.
You went and did it. You need to build into your life moments of enjoyment and moments of indulgence. Everything in moderation
Absolutely.
is good for you. If you want a glass of wine, you can have a glass of
Yeah.
wine. If you
Yeah.
want to have cheesecake, have a piece of cheesecake. Don't eat the whole cheesecake, but you can have some and enjoy
Yes.
it.
And I think that comes down to too is like that intention around it. So often what's happening is we're feeling like those outside things are controlling us. I work in
Yes.
addiction recovery as well, right? And I see people that are like, next thing I know, I had 3 bottles of wine and I didn't know what happened. You know what I mean? Or next thing I know, I ate the entire cheesecake. It's like, wait a minute, eat the entire cheesecake, right? But let's set the
Yeah.
intention first that you're going to eat the whole freaking cheesecake and you're
Yes.
there. So you are controlling everything, not that thing is controlling you. And that
Yes.
little perspective shift too it's just like, okay, I'm in control of my life. I'm taking back my power, which is so
Yes.
powerful.
I love that you bring that up, because that is an area of my life that I have struggled with. Is clearly, like, you don't get hospitalized for anorexia and bulimia and not have some addiction things. I'm a
Exactly.
food addict to the hardcore. Like, even
Me
oatmeal is so good. But also, I would encourage people to take some time to like really look at this. Is one thing that, like, and again, I'm not by any means an expert on addiction therapy. I've got some
Yeah,
background in it, but very little. I think one of the things that a lot of people struggle with when dealing with addictions is they don't actually ever address the reason why that became an addiction. What were we coping from? What trauma and pain were we either numbing or hiding with the 3 bottles of wine or with the whole
right.
cheesecake? Like, take time
Exactly.
to actually acknowledge that, so that when it comes up again, you can take a moment. My therapist has me do this one thing before I eat, drink, or work out, because I tend to do all of them from a place of I just got to power through,
Need to do it.
and it's halt. Ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired?
Okay. I'm writing
And
this
before
down.
you engage in anything that you use as a coping mechanism, whether it's fitness, it's wine, it's cigarettes, it's food,
Whatever.
halt. Ask yourself
Yeah,
those things and then address that before you go into it. You may find
absolutely.
that, one, it's a different enjoyment of the thing because you're now no longer using it as a coping, or you may find that, oh, if I take a moment and just have a nap, I don't want to overindulge in that. You're limiting those abilities there. And
Absolutely. And those things are serving a purpose. You know what I mean? We're eating the food because it's helping us cope in some way. And then when
yeah,
we can understand that, we can be more gentle with ourselves, right? It's like, yeah, it
yeah,
served a purpose and now I don't need it anymore. Now I'm going to find a new way to serve that purpose. And when we know
yeah.
better, we do better. When we know
When
better, we do
we
better.
do better.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Well, people ask that to me all the time. They're like, how did you get so big? Why did you let yourself get that way? I don't know. I was a young closeted gay kid in a super conservative religious family where the word faggot was said on a regular basis. But one
I
thing in my life I could control was what I put in my mouth. So, like,
exactly. That was helping you in those moments, you
yeah, and it's
know?
okay to admit that I did this thing that wasn't the best because it was the only control I had in my life. It's okay
Exactly.
to acknowledge those. We spend too much time stigmatizing those things and mental health and just taking time to
Yes.
understand that trauma happens and we all have it.
There's nothing wrong with you because of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I have so many clients that regularly they're like, I'm broken. I'm like, you're not
I know.
broken. You got some areas of opportunities to improve and strengthen. Yeah, but you are a functioning, beautiful human being
Yeah.
who just has some opportunities to do some new stuff and to try some new things.
And as we're here in Earth School, we're all going to have work to do, right? We never reach this
Yes.
destination, but we're like, okay, I've got it all figured out. Now I'm perfect. No, you're already perfect, right? We're all already perfect, but we're just learning new things in Earth School.
I love that. So, not to push any religious or philosophical beliefs, I'm actually a practicing Buddhist. So
Oh,
I was
yeah.
raised by a Lutheran and a Catholic who became evangelicals. So,
Okay.
and we're talking like the whole holy hand speaking in tongues evangelicals. So religion has always been an interesting thing for me. Growing up, I spent a lot of time just trying to learn about other religions to see how they all viewed things. And
Yeah.
Buddhism is the one that resonated the most because the Buddha taught outright that we are the creators of our own pain and suffering because of
Right.
all the expectations we have and all the
Exactly.
false expectations we have. Well, that's where a lot of this comes from, is because we have expectations around what fitness should look like and what mental health should look like. And then we're constantly being failed because guess what? Life is not a Disney movie with
Right.
a rainbow and birds singing in our shoulders. So come on, guys.
That is so true.
Oh,
But I love that you mentioned earlier you're being a gay man, and that's what I wanted to segue into as well. So you're an openly gay man, and I'm wondering, as like your coming out process, how has that changed? Sounds gay, I'm in. Okay. I love it. I love it. So how has that changed your whole process in coming out? How did that change your coaching, how you work with people? Did it change? Tell us more about that journey too.
yeah, I would say it hasn't necessarily changed the coaching process because I came out before I was a coach. I got into coaching late in the game. I was 23 when I came out. I'm much closer to 40 now that I am 30 at this point.
Okay.
I started coaching in 2015. So
Okay.
I've got 7, 8 years under my belt on that. What it has done for me, though, is it's given me a new perspective on just thinking about and understanding how people respond to things.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I have done in the vast background that is my life is I was a supervisor for a company who handled a lot of tech issues and billing issues and stuff. And I got to the level where the team that I handled was the team that took the escalations from the people who couldn't take the escalations. When they
Okay.
came to me, they had already been defused 3 or 4 times and nobody could get it. So I got the loaded barrel that was that angry customer.
Right.
And people always ask me, how do you do that? How do you take those phone calls? You've
Yeah.
never raised your voice. You're always so polite. You're always so kind with these people. How do you do that? Why do you not get mad? Well, here's the deal, people. We all have shit.
Yeah.
Like, the people who are coming into the gym and they're angry at their coach or their trainer, they're not angry at their coach or the trainer. They're angry with everything else going on in their lives. And their
Yeah.
coach and trainer is a great opportunity to vent at them. When I was in that position, let me tell you, everybody loves yelling at somebody that they know they're never going to interact with again because they can say hands down
Yep.
everything that's going on. And
Right.
just understanding that everybody's got trauma and issues and pain, they're not mad at you. They're mad at the circle that is their life. They're mad that their kid's sick.
Absolutely.
They're mad that they're going through a divorce. They're mad that their cable got turned off. They're mad that they don't have money to put gas in their car. It's just
Right.
understanding that everybody's got something going on and just being able to use actual empathy to
Yeah.
understand that, which is a whole different conversation. Because I was like, learning what actual empathy was so hard because I feel like a lot of people understand empathy to be like, oh, I have to be able to say, I know what it's like. Well, no, empathy is not being able to say, you know what their situation's like, but you've
Right.
felt pain, you've felt stress, you've felt
Yeah.
trauma. And just being able to say, wow, that sounds awful. I am sorry. That's empathy, connecting in that way.
Yeah.
Um, I've had the opportunity to coach and work with a vast group of people. The last 4 years, I've gotten to work with the US Olympic team and the Minnesota Vikings.
Wonderful.
And it's been amazing because while I'm not directly coaching them, I've gotten to watch their process and how their trainers work
Yeah.
with them and to learn how to elevate my own training there. But to see these people who for their entire lives have been high performing athletes and then blow out a knee and be
Yeah.
like, I will never understand what it's like to have that taken from me. But I've also had 9 reconstructive surgeries on my right ankle. I can sit down with them and be like, yeah, that friggin' sucks. I am so sorry for that. I'm not happy that you have to have this pain and this rehab and all that. You don't
Yeah.
always have to connect with somebody from the same point. It's just knowing that pain.
Exactly. It's being in that space with them and holding that container for them. I think sympathy is more along the lines of like, say you're sharing a story with me and I'm like, oh, I know. And what happened to me is blah, 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 blah. Right. I'm trying to relate to you in some way. And that's more like sympathy, which nobody really needs. I feel like people need
Yeah.
empathy, right? It's like that. I see you. I
Well, and
hear
that
you.
also,
I feel you, you
yeah, I
know?
hear you. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you know the levels of listening? One
I
through
don't.
three.
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. There's this great thing. I'm trying to remember who wrote it. It ties into Maslow's hierarchy
Okay.
and the cycles of change. It's understanding that in order for people to be good coaches, they have to learn to listen at the highest level, which is what's called a global listener. So your level one listener is that person who's just there, but everything they're listening to, they're just waiting for them to be able to interject their, oh, I know that because I've done this
Yeah.
type of thing. Then you get your level two listener where they're still listening for moments to respond, but they're listening for moments to respond that are more directly related. So they're still listening to respond, but they're listening to respond more towards them. And then
Yeah.
you get your level 3 listener, who's what's the global listener, and you're listening from a point of empathy. You're watching body language, you're listening to tone, you're looking for inflection. You're not there to give them a response and an answer.
Yeah.
You're there just to hear them talk and to create that space for them. So many people spend so much time at level 1 and they never even touch on level 2, let alone level 3, that it's just,
Yeah.
oh, so bad.
I used to be an expert level 1. Like you'd get
We
together
all
with
did.
friends. Yeah. And one of my friends would be like, oh, my day was so terrible. My boss sucks. And I was like, oh, wait to hear what my boss did, blah, blah. And then the next person's jumping in. And by the end of the conversation, it's kind of like, well, we all feel like shit now. Nobody got anything done, right? We're just complaining about our life and one-upping who's got it worse. Oh, you blew out your knee. Well, I did this to my shoulder one time. And that's not helpful really to anyone. And so the more we learn to tap into the empathy and really listen without having to provide something for that. We're fixers, right? We're doers. We're living in a distorted masculine energy, a lot of it, right? That's shifting a little bit, but it's that distorted masculine is like, let me fix it. Let me save you. Let me tell you my story too. And it's like, let's just hear.
Well, and people don't understand that if they just take a moment to actually listen, there's so much less mental and physical energy involved in being a level 3 listener than a level 1, because your mind's just going the whole time trying to figure out what to say next. Whereas if you just sit there and you're genuinely absorbing it, your mind is only focusing on their words, and it's half the brain power to be a level 3 listener. Yes, you're actually present.
One question I wanted to ask you too is, as you were coming out, what was the hardest thing about that for you?
Oh, the hardest thing about that was disappointing other people. That was the internal monologue, and the words in the brain was, I'm disappointing my parents, I'm disappointing my family. There's a reason why I work as hard as I do. I've got 4 separate college degrees. I own 2 businesses. Like, a lot of what I have in my life right now has been just to prove people that I'm more than just a failure. That's been a recent mind shift for me in the last 5 years since I moved to Minnesota, is that like, no, I'm not disappointing anybody. This is my life. And you know what? You don't like it, there's the door, like, go on.
Did anybody need to go? Like, was your family supportive and your friends supportive?
That's been a whole journey in and of itself. My family disowned me for 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I came out. It wasn't that I came out that they had disowned. My mom spent like 3 weeks after. So I chose like the worst way to come out. I wrote like a 5-page letter that was mostly just apologizing for me being me, and then mailed it to them, and then avoided my mom's phone calls for 3 weeks because I was like, oh, you got the mail today. And then finally answered. We had the conversation, and then she spent another 3 weeks sending me emails with links to Pray the Gay Away camps and like Bible verses. Oh yeah, it was this whole thing.
Oh my God.
I still have them and go back every once in a while and look at them, and I'm like, Mom, really? Then I got engaged. I can say that I was the 3rd legal same-sex marriage in the state of Maine, and I was the first legal divorce in the state of Maine.
Oh my God.
So I hold both of those 2 things. But when I told them I was getting married, they said they wanted nothing to do with the wedding. They weren't going to be there. And we basically just stopped talking for 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. And how's your relationship now?
It's not as good as it could be, just because, one, my dad is one of those, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. My mom still firmly believes that I just haven't met the right woman yet.
Oh.
Because apparently one of you guys has a magic lady part that will just ungay this. Not sure, but there's that.
That's hilarious.
We have communication and contact with each other now. About a year after I got divorced, we had reconnected. There's a whole story behind that. It was such a mess of a divorce. But it's transitioned now so that I'm in control of the conversation. It used to be that my mom would call 3 or 4 times a week, and it would be these just ugly, drama-filled phone calls. And I got to the point where I was like, I moved 2,500 miles away to get away from this drama, to build a happy, healthy life. I want to stay connected with you. But if you can't have a conversation that isn't fueled with like trying to pull me back into the drama and chaos that is our family, I don't want anything to do with it. So we actually haven't spoken on the phone in probably 2.5, 3 years now, but we do regular Marco Polo videos because it's a much, we still get to connect, but it's a much easier conversation. And when I don't want to listen to the bullshit that she's saying, I can put it down and come back to it later.
Yeah.
That's been the progression of that. Someday I hope it gets back to being able to have regular phone calls, but this is what works for our journey right now.
Yeah. And I know you said there was like a little mindset shift in there. So anyone else that's struggling in this area, what would you say to them? And that if they are, I mean, it doesn't even have to be like coming out gay, you know, it could be just being you in general, right?
Yeah.
And what if someone doesn't accept us? How are you now? What would you say to someone? What's a
first off, in the immortal words of RuPaul, how are you going to love yourself if you can't, how are you going to love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Like, it honestly comes down to that. Yes, you got to reconnect with you. Yeah. So much pain and trauma that people experience in their family circles because they're letting other people tell them who they should be, and they're not living their own truth. And again, like, you have to figure out what your truth is. Yeah. But the first thing I would tell you is stop giving a fuck. If they don't accept you, why do you care? Why are they worth that energy? Like, come on.
And it reminds me too of going back to that, what we were first talking about, right? Is that there's nothing to fix about you. So like accepting that piece of actually, I'm good as I am, whether you're 500 pounds, whether you're gay, whether you want to wear a sports bra to the grocery store. I mean, I don't know. You're fine as you are. And like coming to that space of like fully accepting and loving yourself. And before you can let anyone else in anyways. So that's awesome.
It's true. It all goes down to back to the basics. Trust the process, baby steps. Don't do or give more than you're capable of doing or giving. Yeah. And when you need a day off, take a day off.
Yes. And get into a receiving space. That's something I've been playing around with, being present in everything you're doing. If you're washing the dishes, be present. If you're chopping up vegetables, presence, talking to someone, be there, you know, like present. We're always trying to drown that out. We're listening to a lot of things, which is great because I'm like the podcast here, podcast there. Like I got to listen to something while I'm doing something, but I try to cultivate more of that presence and just be open to receiving whatever is going to come with whatever you're doing in that moment.
No, and I love that you say that too, because I feel like that can also be taken in another direction of that being open to receiving. When someone tells you you're cute, just say thank you. When someone gives you a gift because they care, just say thank you. Be open to receiving, because there's so much that we miss out on because we're so quick to shut it down or to say that it's not true. My boyfriend has this issue all the time. He tells me I'm cute and I'm like, nah, you're crazy. It's fine. You need your eyes checked. Take a moment and acknowledge that, because you're not broken. You're cute. So beginning of the pandemic, I found my way onto TikTok. Been a whole thing. I now have 40,000 followers, and they have deemed what I do aggressive positivity and wholesome thirst traps. So there's that. But I end almost every one of my videos that I speak in, you're cute as hell and you deserve more than what you are allowing yourself to have. So like, take it. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Oh, that's so good. And I know we just have a few moments left. So I want to ask you before we start to end, how are you walking your talk, living in integrity?
Oh, that's a good one. I'll be transparent. Coaches need coaches. I have people that I work with. I have therapy once, twice a week sometimes. I journal daily. I don't always follow through. I do struggle with some of my own things. Again, I'm an autistic man with BPD and clinical depression. Some days are easier than others, but I'm intentional about it. And when I write something in my journal, actually, I love this. So if anybody loves a good journal, this is my favorite one so far. It's called the Adventure Journal. It's literally written as like a role-playing game. It's fantastic.
Oh my God.
The Hero's Journal, not Adventure Journal, the Hero's Journal. When I put something in my journal as a task that I'm going to do today and I don't get to it, I go back and I change it and I know why I didn't do it. And I acknowledge that it's okay to not do everything that you set out to do, because sometimes we just put too much to do. We set too many goals. Like you can't do it all. Sometimes you're going to have a list that takes you 4 days to get through, and that's okay.
Yeah.
When you hit a wall and you're tired, you've done. That's it. Go
That's
home.
it.
Take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
The one thing I repeat on a regular basis to all my clients, all my followers is self-care is not selfish care. Take care of you.
Mm-hmm. So true. Such a good reminder too. Love it.
Right?
Thank you, Matthew, so much. This has been amazing. I have loved chatting with you today. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this has been so good.
Is there anything you want to leave people with before we jump off?
Yeah, nothing that I haven't already said, but I'll say it again. Guys, you're amazing. You're not broken. You are cute as hell. You are strong. Go out there the best you can.
Be you and be you.
And be you. Yes, be you.
Awesome. I love it. And if you're looking for someone to chat with, make sure you reach out to Matthew on the app.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you again so much. And I guess that's it for today's session. So
Perfect.
yes, I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you guys on the next episode. All right. Bye.
Bye.